The new transfer portal rules will not be kind to Ole Miss.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, I'm going to be giving my Week 11 picks. Going to have some fun. This has been a great college football season to follow in terms of not just good games, but all the upsets, the unexpected players coming out of the woodwork. I mean, just look at the program I'm going to be talking about at the top of the show, Ole Miss. Did anybody see Trinidad Chambliss being a mainstay in college football? I mean, he played, where was it, Bear State last year? College football has been great. I'm going to give my Week 11 picks at the end of the show. Also going to talk about the college football playoff. Something that I think could happen in this offseason if the ACC champion is not a part of the top 12 but gets in. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the latest news in recruiting and, of course, the commitments, a little transfer portal news. But I start off with why the new transfer portal rule will impact Ole Miss in a negative light, at least short term. And it's probably a microcosm of several programs. So here we go. If you take nothing else from this show, this is what you need to know. Teams like Ole Miss didn't just do well in the portal. They outsmarted people. A lot of people like to pick on Lane because he's a goofy guy and he takes shots at people and all that, especially Tennessee fans. And I get it. He is brilliant with using the portal. But now there's only one window as of this January. It's the 2nd through the 16th. Now he will use that to his fullest ability. And for the record, I think he will come back to Ole Miss. That's my prediction. I have no inside intel there, and I'm not sure Kiffin even knows what he wants to do yet with the Ford or LSU jobs or anywhere else. But I'm assuming here that he's going to come back to Ole Miss. If he doesn't, this will still be a problem for whoever the next Ole Miss coach is, because as a general rule, the Rebels do not recruit the high school ranks at an elite level. They do okay, but they would have to make a shift. Could they do that? Possibly. And we're going to come back to that in a moment. For now, realize that the Rebels, they're going to sign roughly 30 kids a year out of the portal. Name a team that does a better job at evaluating than the Rebels. Probably isn't anybody. But here's the other little part of it that is massive. Name a team that makes any adjustments after spring ball with the spring portal the way that Kiffin and his staff did. It may only be one or two guys, but every player counts, especially when you play in the Southeastern Conference. If you get that player and somebody else doesn't, especially if you know how to use your money properly, save cash on this guy, it's just like the NFL with free agency, really. It's the same concept. So now not only does he have one less window to do that, he doesn't get to see spring ball and go through it. And finally, because of all this, Ole Miss is, at least for the short term, again, this isn't a long-term problem for the Rebels, they will be a younger team next year. They're going to lose a lot of guys off this squad that are really good, including Suntarian Perkins, who I'm going to talk about a little bit during the show. He's a fantastic player that they actually recruited out of the high school ranks from the state of Mississippi. Younger teams probably aren't going to make a run. Probably not. I don't know if Trinidad has another year left. Wardaway knows how that would work in regards to him petitioning the NCAA. Nothing would surprise me. But they've got quarterbacks and everything else. But they're going to lose a lot of portal guys. Guys like Patrick Kudus or somebody may not end up coming back. Again, with the way the NCAA works, I'm not going to worry about all the eligibility stuff. But they're going to lose a lot of players. Are they going to be able to replace all of them next year? Because if they could, if they had two windows, I would say there's a really good chance Ole Miss would be another team contending not only for the playoff, possibly top 5, like they are this year. Kiffin's a very good coach. Without that second window, especially after spring ball where he can truly evaluate his roster, it's going to be more difficult. Long term, if he stays there, and again, that is my prediction, I think Kiffin and his staff will mitigate more and more of their resources into the, not just away from the portal, but they'll use it in a way where they win more home battles for high school recruits. They didn't do a very good job this year, ironically. In state, they've been trying to make up some ground, but it's been a disaster. Even my guy, Stephen Willis over at Locked On Ole Miss said, they missed the boat here. They're trying to get back in on it, but that would have to be every year moving forward. One portal window, everybody jumping in. The prices are going to go up. There's not going to be any freebies. Schools like Texas Tech, Oregon, Texas, BYU, schools that have a lot of money to spend, it's going to be very difficult to compete with them all the time for top guys, especially offensive linemen. Just a shout out on this. Almost every guy on my board, or every team, has O-line as a top 3 need this offseason. Everybody needs linemen just about. So if Ole Miss is in that boat, that's just another way they would have to spend a lot of money. So whether you root for Ole Miss, dislike Ole Miss, think about the following. Does our team right now have an older team? Is it full of juniors and seniors? Because if it is, having one portal window probably hurts you short term. That doesn't mean it'll be a microcosm for everything for the next 5 to 10 years, but at least the next season, there's a chance you're going to be a little younger than you would want, potentially, and leadership and experience oftentimes go hand in hand. Let's see how that goes next year, but I just wanted to throw it out. And just for the record, again, January 2nd through the 16th, that is the regular portal window and the only one this offseason. So schools that really, really hit the portal, 25 plus guys, Texas Tech, even though they spend a lot of money, they wouldn't have the ability to use the spring, Oregon, etc. Teams that try to fill in anywhere, it's going to be a little more difficult, a little more guessing. And even if you're not using the portal a lot, this is the only downside. I like having one portal window, but any team that has a major injury in the spring, Ole Miss or otherwise, there's no chance to replace that young man based on another window opening up. Now, there could be somebody that was already in the portal from January, but most of the really good players are going to be signed within 2 weeks, probably, of entering the portal. There might be a few exceptions as they take visits, but for the most part, that's going to be done. So just wanted to bring that up. When I come back, I want to talk a little bit about the latest recruiting news. We'll also get into the college football playoff, how the ACC might cause a change with how the playoff rankings, not for this year, but for next year. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players deliver when it mattered most, so let's break it down. Speaking of Ole Miss, a player that does not get anywhere near enough attention, and he's one of my favorite players in college football this year, and was really great last year too. Suntarine Perkins, the linebacker / do-it-all edge rusher. He could probably play the nickel role in some capacity against certain players. Very, very gifted young man. This past week, he had 1.5 sacks and 8 tackles. That's a very good player, and he just makes an impact each week for Ole Miss. So just like Suntarine Perkins delivered for Ole Miss, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Terms apply. Promo good through November the 18th. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. I appreciate you stopping in to check out the latest recruiting news, all the stuff going on with the portal, and just a wacky college football season. It's a lot of fun. So next, I just want to kind of go over a few of the commitments and some of the things that are going on. We'll even actually start with the decommits. There's always a little bit of something going on with that. We're on that verge where you're going to see a lot of it, not necessarily a ton, but these are just basically some kids that have decided to flip or decided to get back into the mix with some other schools and did so openly. Remember, a lot of players are going to decommit, but they're just going to flip directly, and there's no in between. So it depends on how you want to classify it. In case you didn't see it, not that long ago, Jay Timmons, this is a really big one, flipped from Florida State to Ohio State. He is a Florida State legacy. Lawrence Timmons was his father and a really good football player, played for Pittsburgh Steelers after playing for the Noles, a linebacker. He lives in the Pittsburgh area. He had committed to the Noles, but he flipped to Ohio State. Now, Florida State still got a good class, but not having that legacy and, depending on which service you go by, Rivals had him as a 5-star. He is legit. That's a tough loss. Kamari Miles decommitted from North Carolina. That's a receiver. I mentioned him yesterday. He's out of Carver, Columbus. Really good player. Upside's pretty high. Carolina's class is like all over the place. It's kind of hard to read. Amari Bledsoe, he's out of Stewart's Creek in Smyrna, Tennessee. He's a corner. He decommitted from Arkansas State. That's a player that I don't know a whole lot about, but I'm telling you, these schools like Arkansas State and stuff, they've made a living off some of these under the radar kids. He's a 3-star on 24/7. And switching over to the committed players, obviously I mentioned Jay Timmons. He was a flip, but there are a couple other kids to mention here as well. Aiden Reeder yesterday, Michigan, he flipped. He was committed to Wisconsin. We got Jay Simmons. Cade Brooks picks Bowling Green. He's a young man from Cross Plains, Tennessee. Old Dominion picks up Cape Johnson. He's out of Butler, CC. He's an interior offensive lineman. Harris, I'm probably going to mispronounce this. My apologies. Harris Arnautovic, offensive tackle, 6'4", 280 pounds. He's a big kid, but some of these guys, I really don't know much about them, to be honest with you. Dylan Durbin, he's a kid from Veterans Memorial in Corpus Christi, Texas. He's going to Wake Forest. Congrats to the Demon Deacons. And we've got Yoaki Tadafu, 6'6", 295-pound offensive tackle, has picked Colorado State. He is out of Hawaii. And finally, Bryson Esser, Garden City Community College, Garden City, Kansas. He is going to ECU, offensive tackle, 6'8", 295. So congrats to him. Not a ton of information on the transfer portal front. Just a few kids that I've kind of mentioned in passing here recently. Dakota Fields. Oregon's had a couple of guys in their secondary. It's pretty loaded and pretty young. Hit the portal. Dakota Fields, a kid out of Gardena. Mentioned him yesterday. That's a kid that will not take long to find a home. Also, Joey Schlafer. He's a kid as a tight end for Penn State. He has entered the portal. I don't know much about him, but he's another guy. And then Derek Osman. He's an offensive lineman that was with Harvard. He's leaving the Harvard. I don't know why kids would leave an Ivy League education. He must really want to chase football. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about college football from the perspective of what is going on in regards to the playoff. I think there's a possible rule change coming, and I want you to think about this right now. Which conference has been the hardest to predict this year? Is it the ACC? Is it the SEC? Big 12, Big 10? We're going to talk about that next, and why this league's champion this year could help dictate a future rule. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you up to date on all kinds of different projects you got going on, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need something next day, absolutely. Supply House can get that done for you. If you need help, if you need to figure it out with somebody on the phone, they got you covered there. And they got 3D schematics to help you understand everything that you're looking for. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. Let's talk a little bit about the college football playoff. And this is a pet peeve of mine. Last year, they made the mistake, and it's a big one. And for those of you in the chat, I'll get there in just one sec. They made a mistake. The automatic top 4 seeds were the major programs, the top 5, top 6, top 7. Everybody had a spot where they thought they should be, but the way it automatically worked, you had Boise up top, etc. They corrected that. That's the first correction they've made. Certain schools didn't deserve as high a seed as they got. Fair enough. But what about the following? I understand they want to have balance. I get it. You want to give everybody a shot. Totally understand that. That being the case, there needs to be an exception clause or rule, whatever you want to call it. If any league has a team that wins the league that is 9-3 or something in the regular season and had some really bad losses, but still found a way into their title game, let's just use the ACC this year. It's topsy-turvy. It's possible that the winner of the ACC has 3 losses. It's not out of the question. It's unlikely, but it's still possible. If a league ever has something like that happen, and I'm talking about regular season, before the championship game, should that team be the automatic qualifier? There needs to be something there. And I don't know how you do this, but let's say Louisville goes 11-1 in the regular season, but they lose to somebody that is 9-3, who's not even in the top 20. You're going to tell me that team's going to get in over somebody else? That's rough. How do you do that? Fire away in the chat if you've got an answer, or answer if you listen to this pod later on. Comment on YouTube. Hit me up on X at FBScout_Florida. What happens if the team that, quite frankly, has no business being in the college football playoff wins their championship game? I don't want to see, like, if Virginia finishes 9-3, but they beat Virginia on some wild blocked field goal or something, and they return a punt for a touchdown, but have a bad offense. If they win a game 24-21, and they only really score 10 points offensively, and they had 3 losses going into the game. I know these are all hypotheticals, but if that kind of scenario happens, do they deserve in? Because at that point, would Virginia get in? Yes. But would Louisville? If they were 11-1, that'd be a hard pill to swallow. Those kinds of things happen. But it's part of college football. I know there are upsets. There's more in the college, by the way, college compared to pro. It's way, way more. Should we allow a team with 3 losses to get in? At some point, we're going to answer that. I hope it's a long time from now, but when it does happen and somebody completely gets hosed, not only the team that was 11-1, I mean, you did have a chance to beat them, but some other team, maybe it's a Big Ten team, maybe it's an SEC team, especially if it's a big brand like Bama or Oregon or something, there's going to be another problem. That would be the advertisers. Do they want that little school in there? Let's be honest. They control a lot of this. It has zero to do with fair before anybody says anything. Zero. This is about these teams being in these different leagues. The reason there's so much representation is it's more representation for advertisers. They want every state to have a say. Because if they didn't, it would be dominated in the Midwest and it would be dominated in the South. It's just true. They wouldn't have as much money. They think they have much stake in it because teams out West, some of the true East Coast, they wouldn't have as much. And they don't want it to be that way. They want to be able to get their advertising dollars spread. So while you may think college football is trying to do this for leagues, don't kid yourself. This is about advertising. And it's a TV product. They want the elite teams in because there's more eyeballs. So I think at some point, if there is a situation where a team wins 9 regular season games, then wins their quote unquote conference championship game, we're going to see one of those teams in that year, but there might be an off-season rule change. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know how they come up with it, but that's just what I think. We'll see if I'm right or not here pretty soon, because I would imagine the next 5 years it's going to happen. All right, let me see here. What do I got in the chat? Kent Brewer, why would only one team be affected? No, that's a microcosm. Kent, you need to listen to the entire structure, not one team. I said it as a microcosm. Be careful. You have to be careful. Read the whole thing, then listen. Not one or the other, both. Ole Miss is the one that probably does better with the portal than anybody, though. It's not even in question. Kiffin outsmarts a lot of people with his evaluations, not only his own roster, but what he needs to fine-tune things. I think he's fantastic at it. Having one portal window will definitely hurt them. Katie, kids can still transfer after the spring and have their expenses picked up by NIL. That's fine. You can only enter once. I don't think you understand. Like after spring, that's not true. There's only one window. There is no more after spring window. In case, I don't know if you're understanding that, Katie, but there will not be any. 0. That being the case, everybody can still think what they want, I guess. Didn't Clemson get in like that last year? Last year, the ACC, that league it's borderline. What did they have? They have 2 losses the regular season, or they have 3? I can't remember, but that's probably one of the reasons I'm thinking of it. That's a good point. If they did, like the ACC is a league that anything is possible. But if they hadn't won, it would have been SMU, and that's not somebody that anybody thought was going to win that league either. Florida State obviously bombed last year. Miami tanked down the stretch, and they're doing it again. That league just finds a way to shoot itself in the foot. we'll see. Georgia Tech this year, et cetera. There's a lot of possibilities, but right now the ACC doesn't have a dominant team. So they're the easiest one to bring up. So Katie's got a point there. I would imagine, and I could be wrong on this, that within the next 3 years, there's going to be a no doubt they're not a top 12 kind of team. At least Clemson's roster, like they had a lot of NFL guys, but somebody that is not a brand. Let me add that to this. Somebody that is not a flat out brand in college football. I'll put this back up here. Didn't Clemson get in like that last year? And Katie said, she looked at, I haven't even paid attention. They had 3 losses. Clemson is a big brand. They won the title in 16. They won in 18. They were in the title game in 15, et cetera. Like they were really good for a long time. That 2019 and 2020 teams, they were really good. They're not as good now, obviously. They're way falling off, but it's still a brand. What if it's Virginia? I can tell you right now, the brands that are advertisers will not like that. They want to see Oklahoma in. They want to see Notre Dame in. They want to see Ohio State and Texas in. And again, this has zero to do with fair. None. Absolutely none. Clemson at least held their own, and they actually played pretty well against Texas for most of that game when they went on the road. But it needs to be somebody that's probably not going to have the cachet of a Clemson, although after this year, I don't know if Clemson would have much cachet. They looked awful. What little I watched them at Duke last week. These kinds of situations are going to happen. I don't think it's going to work out well long-term because one of these teams is going to get in, especially, let's say it's Virginia this year and they fade down the stretch, but they win the ACC title game. If they go out and get beat 41-10 by Oregon or something, rule change might be coming. You can argue whether that's good or bad, but I understand those that would cry foul because if there's like a 9-3 SEC team, like let's say Texas goes 9-3 and your losses are at Ohio State, at Georgia, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, but that team could be the one that gets canned. Plus the advertisers, no offense, would strongly prefer the University of Texas gets in. Just saying. Speaking of games and picks, and thank you to everybody that commented. I like that. Bringing that up. That's why discussion is so good. I'm going to have my week 11 picks coming up next. And just for fun here, I've never done this. I'm not a gambling guy. So before I go over these here in just about 5 seconds, no, do not go by what I say. I'm just going to throw these out for fun. I enjoy doing this stuff. I sometimes write down a few scores, what I think. But this week, I decided to go through a bunch. And this is the top 25 games and a couple extras. Nothing special, but I'll give out point spreads and everything, and I'll give my final score predictions. Northwestern plays at USC Friday night. This is interesting. SC's favored by 14.5. Over-under is set right now 51.5. From what I see, I've got SC winning 31-14, so that would technically cover. And that would be a game that'd be the under on that one. IU at Penn State. I think this will be a carbon copy last week of what happened to Penn State when they played the Buckeyes on the road, although this one's at home in Happy Valley. I don't think they've got enough juice left. There's something about that team I don't understand. I've never seen a team fall off like Penn State did this year. As soon as they lost that game to the Ducks, they just fell apart. It's weird. I think IU's going to stomp them. I could be wrong, and I'd like to see Coach Smith have some success. He's been a patient guy. He stuck around Penn State. He loves that place. He's an alum, all those things. But at the end of the day, IU's just rolling. Their coaching staff is intact. Fernando Mendoza is fantastic. I think Indiana's going to pull away in this one. I got them winning 42-14. The spread on this one isn't anywhere near that. I think it's something like 15, give or take, depending on which one you go by. Like over-under is 50.5 for what I got here. Yeah, I think Indiana's going to crush. I would lay the points at 17 real quick. And again, over-under is 50.5. I've got to go in over. Georgia at Mississippi State, 27-17 dogs is what I got. Over-under is 56.5. So with that one, I'm going to go under. But the spread on this one, it's another one of those. It's pretty basic. It's like 9.5. Give me the dogs. I know that would be close. I got them winning by 10. But I'm kind of thinking that Georgia's offense is headed in the right direction. It's amazing when a quarterback, and Gunnar Stockton's not unbelievable, don't get me wrong, but now that he's got some confidence and he's been through some tough games, especially that Tennessee game and that 4th down throw he made, I think he's going to be pretty good down the stretch. BYU at Texas Tech. This number 7 and number 8. This could be as entertaining as there is of any game in college football this weekend. 52.5 is the over-under. I've got Tech winning in a high-scoring game, 38-27. I expect some turnovers. I expect some big plays, and I think both teams will make them, but I also think Tech will get out to a pretty good-sized lead. The difference here, I think, the portal. Texas Tech went out and bought their D-line, straight up. They did, and they got some players. And they're coaching them, and they're playing hard. These guys are getting after it. So I got the over, and I got Tech. They're going to win this one 38-27. Ohio State, Purdue, another game that I think really shouldn't be that surprising. It's amazing how efficient Ohio State's defense has been. I think it'll be a late backdoor cover for Purdue, but 41-17 Ohio State. Purdue's underdog by like 25 or something like that, 26. I like Ohio State to win the game outright, and I think they'll control it, but they'll pull some guys. Purdue will get a late score, but I'll go with the over on the over-under total as well, 48.5. So for this one, I got 58. I got it way over. It's not even on the books for where I was, but I just want to throw it out there because I think it's important to note how they're playing down the stretch for the playoff run. I think Ole Miss will slaughter the Citadel 48-3. A&M, I've got 31-17 over Missouri. A&M right now is ranked number 3. Missouri's technically on their third quarterback. They're number 22. They're at home. But yeah, I don't see that going well for them. It's Aggies for me. 48.5 is the over-under, but I got a lower score than that. I got 48. I wouldn't touch the over-under if I was actually betting. I got it too close. I think A&M will cover. Oregon at Iowa, 24-20. Oregon over-under is 42.5. I would go over, but it would be barely. I don't know if that matters that much. Syracuse at Miami, 38-7. Canes is what I got. Over-under is 46.5. So I'm pretty close on that as well. I think Miami's favored by like 29.5, 38-7. That's pretty close on that. But man, Syracuse's offense, since they lost their quarterback, you talk about precipitous fall. That is really, really bad. Auburn at Vandy. If there's a lock of the week, if I gave one, it wouldn't be on the score, like the normal betting line. It wouldn't be on the over-under. It would be on the team total for Auburn to go under. I didn't even know what it was, and I said under. I looked it up. It's 19.5. Auburn loses their quarterback there. They benched him. They fired their coach. The guy that's the interim is a defensive-minded coach for a team that's struggling on offense. They changed the quarterback. All that. I have no idea. Vandy's defense is pretty good. Auburn, again, is supposed to score 19.5. That's like the over-under number. I got them scoring 10. I got Vandy 24-10 over Auburn. The over-under on the game, by the way, is 45.5, so I would be way under that. Washington at Wisconsin. I got the Dogs winning 27-20. Wisconsin's offense is offensive. Between them and Auburn, it's hard to watch. Those are the two teams I try not to watch on TV, Wisconsin and Auburn. Those teams just can't score at all. They're so bad. They've had so many issues. And I love watching Damon Williams, the quarterback for the Dogs. That guy is spectacular. Running back's really good. He's an NFL player. They make enough plays on defense, and Wisconsin just shoots itself in the foot. I don't know if Carter Smith or somebody else is going to get playing time for Wisconsin this week, but that over-under at 44.5, that's interesting. I would go under on that because I just don't think – I mean, Washington's defense isn't great, again, but they're the number 23 team in the nation, not just because of their offense, but their defense is solid. They give Ohio State some problems at times when they played them, so give me the under there. Wake Forest at Virginia. Virginia's only favored by 6.5. That one kind of surprised me in a way. Wake Forest, they've been playing well, but then they got slaughtered by Florida State last week. Like, they just got blitzkrieged. 42-7. Florida State's arguably the most difficult team to figure out, but they're 6.5-point underdogs. I thought it would be more than that. Virginia's played pretty well. I think the run game will get it done, and they'll win the third down battle. They'll win the time of possession battle. They've got the veteran quarterback. Give me Virginia in this one, 34-17. The over-under on this is 47.5, so I would slightly be over on that. Cal at Louisville. This one's interesting. If there was a game I would avoid on this sheet, it would be this one. You got a freshman quarterback for Cal who's eventually going to be an NFL player, but it's a road game coming all the way across the country. Louisville's got an excellent head coach with a quarterback that's up and down. Hard to say. I mean, if there's a quarterback whisperer, it's Coach Brom, but I don't know. Cal's defense, Linebackers are pretty good, but they don't have the defensive front to really slow down Louisville's rushing attack. Isaac Brown, I think, will have a big day. Over under on it's 49.5. That if I bet anything, it would have been that. 34-20 And I also think that this would have to be a situation where at some point, I would imagine at least a turnover or two out of Cal. Like their defense isn't very good. The offense might stress a little, cause some problems there. LSU at Bama. Bama's favored by 9.5. I've got them winning 27-14. That also means that I would go on the under because it's 49.5. Bama cover and go with the under. LSU's offensive line, I don't think they'll be able to move the ball very consistently against Bama. Their run defense is just okay, but LSU's run offense is maybe not even okay. I think they'll be in a lot of 3rd and longs, and Bama will cause them some problems because their secondary is elite. Navy at Notre Dame, I don't know how to really grade this. Navy's quarterback's a good player, but Notre Dame's defense has been on fire. Is Jeremiah Love going to go crazy in this game? Maybe, maybe not. I would imagine it's more likely that he hits a few big plays, but I got the Irish winning 42-14. Over under is 55.5, so I'm almost right on it. I think Notre Dame's favored by like 29 or something like that. This one's real close. I would not put a whole lot of stock in this game because Navy is never going to quit. If I ever bet on games, it would never be on Service Academy games. If there was ever something that could be a backdoor cover, it would be them. But again, over under, I'm like right at it, and pretty much the point spread, I'm right at it. So I don't really have a really strong feel on that one, but Notre Dame will win. They got too much talent. Maybe the most intriguing game, because like I said a little bit ago, the hardest team to figure out is Florida State. You have no idea what you're getting with them week to week. I know, I cover them. Locked On Seminoles is the other podcast I do here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Lord only knows they drive me crazy because whenever I think something, the opposite happens. I thought they would beat Wake Forest last week, but I didn't think they'd beat them 42-7. They just shredded them. Well, they go to Death Valley this week. And I saw something interesting. I don't know if it's an injury reason, if the bookies know something I don't. The line is moving towards Florida State. It's down to 1.5, the last I saw. Now, I'm picking Florida State outright because of the following, but that makes me wonder if there's an injury because, by the way, there's no such thing as an accurate injury report. There are 0 of those. 0. That being the case, I think that Clemson's secondary, while it's good normally, when it messes up, it really messes up. They are towards the bottom of college football in a very, very bad stat. 40-yard passing plays given up. They've given up 7 of those, 40 or more. That's why they lose. They give up chunk yardage plays. And if there's one thing that Florida State and Tommy Castellanos can do, it's throw it down the field. He's got arguably the fastest player in college football at wide receiver, Mekhi Danzey. He's insanely fast. And they also have Deuce Robinson, who was ACC Player of the Week last week, who's 6'6", 223, and he can run too. That's a problem because their inside run game's pretty good, and even though Clemson's run defense is solid, they'll run it enough to make you respect it. I don't trust Clemson's secondary, and again, I don't put a lot of faith in Florida State, but outright, I think Florida State will win the game. I think it'll be pretty close. It'll be a good game too. I got Knowles 31, and I've got Clemson Tigers 27. The over-under is 56.5, so I would technically be on the over. Finally, just because I think it'll be an interesting game, I give respect to Houston because they have really improved their program. It's amazing what that coaching staff has done. I mean, that roster's got picked over in the portal this offseason, and they're still good. So props to Houston first and foremost. They play at UCF, a team that's struggling. But this is the kind of game teams that don't have good coaching, that don't have good leadership, they tend to fall on their face, and at least not cover. For whatever the reason, they're only minus 1.5. I think they're at least 7 points better, if not more, than UCF. And I trust that coaching staff for Houston because they haven't got there yet. They'll have their players' attention in practice all week. And I think they'll win this game by 10. I got Houston 31-21 over the Knights, and the over-under spread is 47.5. So I would technically be on the over as well. So I got Houston covering there. Let's check out the chat here. Let's see. Katie Ullman, didn't Lucas come to Miami outside the portal? He came a long, long time, and that was just drawn out. The way the portal works, it's not when you enter and you have to be done. You just put your name in it. So that if you entered in the month of January, you may not sign until June. It's weird. The key is when you enter. That's what the portal window means. It doesn't mean enter and complete the process. It's not both. It's only getting in the portal. I didn't always know that too. So when it first came out, but that is the rule. So there may be some players after the spring window that are still available, but how many of them are really going to be desirable? And the whole thing with Lucas, that's because it was a legal battle, and that may be a legal battle for years because that's awkward. But still a good question. Thank you for that. Michael McDowell. I know what you mean, but both schools that are playing in Starkville are Bulldogs. What are you? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm not sure. Well, I got Georgia. My fault. You are correct on that. Georgia at Mississippi State. I've got UGA 27-17. I think they'll win. I just don't think that Mississippi State will be able to handle Georgia's offense. That's my opinion. If there is a chance for an upset in that game, my apologies, by the way, on the Bulldogs comment. I'm just used to saying that with UGA. It's this. Georgia seems to play around a little bit too much with teams that don't have as much talent as them. If they're going to do anything in the playoff, this is a game we're going to kind of see that. Are they focused enough? Kirby Smart can coach. That's not any newsflash. He's got very good assistants, Glenn Schumann, etc. No doubt. This is a player thing. I trust Gunnar Stockton. I've had a chance to be around him. He's a great guy. He's somebody that people are going to look to in leadership moments. No doubt. My bigger question is the following. How does the defense handle it if they get a lead? The old school Georgia teams, and again, this same coaching staff, so this is not a coaching thing. Glenn Schumann's still the same guy. Do they have the killer instinct? I question that. If Georgia gets up 21-7, will they just kind of roll? Just kind of go with the punches? Or will they look to absolutely eliminate any chance of hope for Mississippi State? I don't know. I think they should win this game by 20, but I'm picking them. Again, it's 27-17 is what I got, UGA, because I don't think they will. That is my one concern this year with Georgia. Like they start slow sometimes. They don't always have the same intensity they need. Why that is, I don't know. Again, I'm not going to blame Kirby. I think he's earned the right to say he's arguably the best coach in college football, certainly top 3 by about any metric. Glenn Schumann, etc. They've got the right people there. But that defense in particular, it's not as dominant as it needs to be, considering how many guys they have. That I think it's somebody said earlier this year they have 8 5-stars on their depth chart on defense. Look, they need to dominate something like this. They need to prove me wrong. They need to go out and win that game 38-10, but I don't think they will. I think it'll be a fairly close game in the first half, and I think Georgia will pull away in the second half just because they've got more talent. I don't think they've got a killer instinct, but we'll see. Katie, I'm saying a player just quits and he enters the new school as a transfer student. I don't know how that works. Like if you do that, that gets into the waiver process. Because if that's the case for every kid, there's no such thing as a transfer portal window. This is a good point, though. The following is going to happen. And this is where it gets dicey. Forget the winter window for a second. Especially let's just use the quarterback position. There's only one person that plays, right? As a general rule. There's a few exceptions, but by and large, there's one starter. And they get all the reps in practice. They get all the reps in the game. So let's just go with quarterback. Next spring, and you can pick the school. I don't care. Oregon, Nova Sad decides to challenge Dante Moore again. They try to win the job. He doesn't win it. Well, there's no portal window. Is he or somebody else going to challenge the rule? Somebody's going to do it. Who, what, when, where, why, how, I don't know. But by this rule, you don't get to make amends for not winning the starting job in spring. So you got to guess. One of the reasons I think they did this is to take some stress off coaches because, I had a face-to-face conversation with an SEC coach last year, right before their spring game. Hey, I wouldn't want our spring game on TV because I don't want people pilfering, not just, like starters, but guys that we've developed that are now just emerging. Those are the guys that he was worried about. It was an interesting thought. They want to take that off the plate. That's why the portal window is coming off, in my opinion. I've never asked anybody, but it's pretty interesting. Katie, I won't bug you about that again. No worries. These are interesting questions. The portal is confusing. Like the rules change constantly. That's not a newsflash. The NCAA inconsistency, they don't go hand in hand. But the portal, it actually has reasons, like what I just talked about. Do you blame college coaches if you're always worried you're looking at your phone to see if somebody's transferring off your rock? That sucks. You're never off the clock. They were having such a problem. I know this flat out. Keeping college coaches, if you could get any kind of NFL job, people were taking it, back office, whatever, because they didn't want to deal with the portal. They didn't want to deal with NIL. NIL, they can't do a ton about, but the portal windows, they can. They want to give those guys a little more freedom to actually go out to dinner with their wife or go home and not constantly be worried about a guy leaving. That's why there's one window. We'll see again if it ends up being a situation where somebody challenges. I strongly suspect that that will be the case. Alan Beck, one portal window was always a better idea. No argument. Having it after spring, the only advantage, I guess there could be, if somebody wants to argue this, fire away. I don't know how you do it because you get into legal matters. If a kid, some kind of hardship situation, that's always there. And again, just for the full sake of complete openness, if there is a weird situation like Stanford had this year, or the coaching change happens after the portal window in the winter, if there hadn't been a spring, those kids still could have left. If your coach leaves, you get to leave. There's a window. But now that the change, here's still another change. It's not when the coach is fired that the window opens. This I don't like either. It's when the new coach is hired. Well, if you're a school, you can hose those kids. Because if it happens after, let's say it happened in late April because of some scandal with a coach, the longer you wait to name the coach, even if you knew who it was, the more likely you are to keep players on your roster because they're going to want to know who it's going to be. You make them make a decision unknown. Somebody's going to do that. It's going to happen eventually, but hopefully I'm wrong on that because that's really wrong. But nonetheless, I agree. One portal window is better. We'll see if it ends up being a scenario where it sticks, and we'll see how many different people, quite frankly, challenge it. Again, that quarterback situation, keep an eye on that. I suspect that will be the most likely scenario for somebody going out there and doing something to challenge it. Quarterbacks, they just, there's only one guy that plays. So I understand. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Enjoy the college football this weekend. We got USC playing Northwestern tonight. Not the greatest game. I'm going to a good high school game in the state of Alabama to watch some good high school football. Wherever you're at, enjoy the Pigskin. I'll see you again soon. This has been the Portal Podcast.